Hey everyone, this video is part of a potential series that's tentatively named Case Studies in Freedom, and this one will look at China and Hong Kong. The reason I'm making them is because when you debate about which system is better or the best, by any metric, whether it's prosperity or health or innovation, you often run into the argument that rich countries are rich and poor countries are poor because of circumstances they had no control over. Essentially, that the world isn't an even playing field. And this is a bad thing. You often hear this on the left with socialists and Marxists. If you look into dependency theory with the core-periphery relationship, that's essentially what I'm talking about. The part of the argument that's correct is that the world is not and never has been and never will be an even playing field. The environments are different, the political systems are different, the cultures are different, and the societies are different, but it is not true that luck is the determining factor in a country being rich or poor, or circumstance. Because most of this is within the grasp of an individual to change culture, society, and politics. That is to say, it's more what you make of your surroundings than the surroundings themselves. Now, if we wanted an even playing field, to see which system works better, all else being equal, we take North and South Korea, because they were almost identical before the war and the armistice and the split. And if you look 7 years later, you can watch my last video if you don't believe me, you can tell from space that South Korea is a much better place to live in, or invest in, or vacation in. But that doesn't dispel the argument, because the world is not an even playing field, so perhaps a different system is needed. But then we look at China and Hong Kong. The reason being, it's a perfect counterintuitive example of this. China is one of the largest and oldest empires in human history. It has a rich and deeply entrenched history, a strong culture that creates a shared sense of identity among Chinese people, and behind Russia, it's arguably, in terms of how many resources it has, the second most rich country. Hong Kong, on the other hand, could fit into China 8,000 times, more than 8,000 times. It's a tiny, barren island with almost no resources. In terms of its history, it's traded ownership between Japan, China, and Britain for most of its history. So this is not an example where everything else is held equal. This is an example where if you were looking at prosperity or health or innovation, you would expect China to be on near the very top and Hong Kong to be near the very bottom. And the counterintuitive aspect is that the opposite is true. We can look at this from many metrics, but I'll just give you a few important ones. Freedom. Freedom is an important factor, I hope. According to Freedom House, China's aggregate score is 16. Now, there's only, I think, 15 or 20 countries on Earth with a score lower than that. Places like Iran, Yemen, Afghanistan, and Rwanda all score higher than China. Hong Kong's score is 63, which is still halfway down the list, but much better than China. You can look at corruption. Transparency International places China at 79 and Hong Kong at 15. Hong Kong is near places like Belgium and Austria, European countries, where China is in the company of Brazil and India. According to press freedom, China is the fourth last country in the world, and Hong Kong is a third of the way up the list, around 60. So by most metrics, corruption, press, general freedom, Hong Kong is a much better place to be than China. And depending on your priorities, that's arguably the most important factor. Where are you more free? But economics also plays a role. Now, China has grown a lot recently because it's adopted a more capitalistic system. It is becoming more like Hong Kong than it is becoming like North Korea with each passing year. But credit where credit is due, its GDP per capita has risen from around 2,500 to 8,000 in the last 15 years or so. Hong Kong's GDP per capita has also risen in that time from 30,000-ish to 42,000. So Hong Kong is still far ahead, and this is taking into account resources, the landslide of predetermined factors in terms of China and Hong Kong. Now, when you look at access to internet, China is around 50%, Hong Kong is around 85%. These are major differences. China is growing at a rate of -3%, whereas Hong Kong is growing at a rate of around 1%, depending on which sources you rely on. China does import and export more than Hong Kong, but it imports and exports 3 times more than Hong Kong, and its population is 200 times larger. So this is a relative difference. If you want to look at which country is more economically free, you can look at tariff deals as a good indicator. China has 22 and Hong Kong has 1. Guess with who? It's with China. If you look at doing business, it ranked Hong Kong at 4 and China at 78. And this is ranking economies by the ease of business operation and international trade through a variety of factors. Again, vast differences, counterintuitive, but Hong Kong is a much better place to be. And we look at the implications of this fact. Hopefully, I've demonstrated to you that it's fairly factual by a landslide. But if you need a further indication, you look at how people vote with their feet, as Milton Friedman has said. And you can do your own research online and tell me which side of the China-Hong Kong border has to use soldiers to prevent its people, its own people that is, from fleeing with little more than the clothes on their backs for a better life, for more freedom, for more prosperity. Which way is that migration going? And when you find the answer to that question, it should further solidify the notion that freedom, economically and politically, is the most important determinant of prosperity and health, happiness, and innovation. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, let me know if you want to see more of these. You can suggest countries if you'd like. Share the video. Follow me on Minds and Twitter, that's @morphingreality, no space, for both. And subscribe for more. Thanks again. Until next time.